good morning.
Good
We're
morning.
going to call this meeting of the TRPA Legal Committee to order. It is Wednesday, October 22nd. It is 8:32 a.m. Catherine, would you mind calling the roll?
Ms. Fastinos?
Here.
Ms. Aldine?
Here.
Mr. Keycapper?
Here.
Ms. Loomer?
Here.
Ms. Williamson?
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. To a reminder to folks online, my board members, please don't use the chat box to make any comments or sidebar conversations. And if you're joining us from Zoom or from the phone, please either click the raise hand or dial *9 to be called upon. In the public, I'll call you up as we go into public comment period, and please, why don't we get a chair so folks are more comfortable? We can use that chair so people don't have to stand. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, so just come on up to this chair for public comment, which is actually the first item on our agenda. This is the public comment period for any item listed on legal committee's agenda. Members of the public wishing to address this committee this morning, I'll call in person first and then either dial *9 or click raise hand. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Why don't we go ahead and start with public comment in the room?
Good morning, Ellie Waller. I'm going to talk about just fines this morning. This should give you pause on the inequity of size of projects, single family homes treated similarly, large development projects, in my opinion, something to discuss for future. I reviewed the 19 pages, the historical records from 1997 to 2025. I'll be sharing some of the largest fines and also some of the comparisons as mentioned before. So 1997, 20K unauthorized grading, 1998, 65K, 30 of it went to TRPA, 35 to scenic mitigations. 1999, 215,000 for unauthorized construction in the shoreline path, directed and indirected discharges of earth and materials. 2001, failure to provide a tree-by-tree review that did not pose any hazards. 40K, 25 over 5 years from a public utility district as well on that one. 2001, excavated material placed down slope. I have a bunch of these. There was other bigger ones, authorized backshore disturbance, a house not built to plans was 250K. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with what these are. I'm just stating lots of these things. Well, the beach club, I think, was lowballed at 50K for their temporary BNP's failure, which brings us to today's, which is very similar. Excuse me. So I'm hoping you're going to have a robust discussion. And I just want to state providing press releases stating environmental stewardship is happening cannot cover mistakes of the past, figuratively to literally. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll leave this.
Thanks. And Ellie, I heard everything you said. I just want to comment, your earrings are lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice. You need to know where you got them. So very off topic. They're so cute with Nevada.
Hey, John Gurner, I'm sure most of you know who I am. I'm a neighbour of this failed project of Barton there. We live in the shit that they created us. There's been sediment flooded off that property. They've gone on, instead of a bike path, which I believe is a TRPA goal to have bike paths around the lake, they put their fence on the bike path and were told in September last year to move it. They moved it a foot off the bike path. They put a sediment catchment pond, which if you look at their BMPs at the end of 2014 or 2024, was supposed to be removed. Instead, those banks are now in concrete. So all the water catching off that whole side of the bank and in what is the public right of way. And the only reason why that fence is there now is because TRPA made a mistake and didn't correct their mistake in managing the site and doing site inspections. If they'd done site inspections, they would have told Bart, like every other property owner, move your fence to your property. No, don't leave it in the public domain. So we live on the backside of that street. There's been safety issues with the fence. There's been a fence now, which Douglas County code enforcement has confirmed is not permitted. The black fence sitting right up against the footpath, capturing all the water that's coming off there from the rapid sediment water catchment ponds, is going right in under the bike path. And if you look on the Edgewood side of the bike path, it's destroyed. There's cracks all through it. And that's purely 100% a result of what's happened with Barton. If you go to the other side of it, there is no damage. That bike path, there should be 8 feet from that bike path to their property line. They put a massive embankment there that was supposed to be removed, hasn't been removed, hasn't been monitored by TRPA. So that what you've actually allowed them to do is allow them to just become a chronic abuser of you guys. We all don't like the idea of finding a hospital, but finding a hospital proportionally is only fair in this situation. We can't give, they don't get a free ride because they're a hospital. They're not going to, you know, and live under the guise that if we don't find them, they'll spend more on the community health. That's not the people we're dealing with. We're dealing with a CEO that sent the police into our neighborhood to knock on our doors to ask who was moving there. You know those little things full of hay? Who moved that? That wasn't attached to the ground, and when it flooded out, it was the police coming to our houses in our neighborhood asking and accusing people of doing that. That was from the CEO. It's actually the desperate man trying to blame someone else for it. And now the latest term that Chris Proctor's come up with is run on. There was no evidence and no reporting done of a major run on to the site coming from Highway 50. The gutters on Highway 50 are above the drains on Highway 50. I'm not sure where this new term run on has come from, but it's a deflecting, another deflecting. We blame the community. We blame we're blaming NDOT now. You know, this needs to stop, and there needs to be a reasonable project responsible run by TRPA. You guys have got to take control of these people and bring them into control. And $50,000, you guys probably spent more than $50,000 trying to get a negotiation done with Lou Feldman and Barton. And Barton would have spent more than
John,
50,000.
We're at 3 minutes. Thank you very
Perfect.
much. Thank you.
I'll be back. Thank you.
Next up, please take a seat.
I suppose if no one else will go, I'll take a turn. Okay. Briefly, what's the objective here of fines? You'd like to think that the objective
John,
of.
could you just introduce yourself?
Oh, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is John Grigsby. I live in the Oliver Park neighborhood, just a couple blocks from the proposed hospital district. What's the objective of fines and punishments and all this stuff? Hopefully, the objective is to get people to actually do the BMPs they committed to. In this case, we have a case, this is not an oops. This is a case where these BMPs were signed off on 6/11/24. They still to this day have not done them. The required grading has still not been performed. You can look at the sheets right here. They're very simple. Even I can understand it. I'm not a professional. So there's clearly a problem here. Furthermore, if you look at the proposed fine, you can see that that's going to cost them less than complying with the BMPs. At this point, and I take no pleasure in saying this because I prefer to work with people and I prefer to say, hey, let's all work in good faith together to get something that works here. They're not working in good faith. They're saying, we're not going to do this, you make me. And until there's some sort of fine that causes them to actually do that with penalties for actually not doing it, which they still haven't, and you can go by the site and see that the required grading and the required wattles, which would have been totally sufficient to provide this, have not been performed. This is going to happen again, and it's going to keep happening. And what they're saying is, you don't matter. You are irrelevant. The TRPA is irrelevant. We're going to do what we want, and your fines are a cost of business for us. Furthermore, we don't have time to get into the details, but you may ask yourself why, with no permits at all, they also drained and compacted the entire site. The compaction is a big reason for why all the water flowed off. And you might also ask why, instead of calling attention to that, we've, as John Gerner said, instead of saying, hey, whoops, we didn't do any of the BMPs, they tried to blame it on neighborhood vandalism, of which there is no evidence, and the Douglas County Police found no evidence. Again, what this says is Barton is not working in good faith here. They say, you don't matter, the TRPA doesn't matter, your fines are a cost of doing business, and until you address that, you're going to have that problem, and the legal committee is going to have a problem in the future, because 50K is what people get fined for cutting a few trees. you're gonna have all these big projects come to you in the future and say, hey, if they can completely ignore their BMPs, do nothing, have all these discharge events and get fined 50K, my fine's disproportionate. Legal committee's gonna have some problems here. You're gonna have some people, all sorts of people coming to you and say, hey, you know, we paid all for all, these guys can do this and get only fined 50K. What are we getting, you know, what are we getting fined for? So not only does this not produce the desired effect, which is get people to actually do their BMPs, it means you're gonna have a real problem enforcing anything in the future if these are the sort of fines that people know you're meeting out, because all they have to say is, well, we don't really have to do any of this stuff TRPA requires. All we gotta do is wait them out, and eventually they'll give us a fine that costs less than the BMPs would have. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Anyone else in the room wishing to make public comment at this time? Can we please go online and see if we have hands raised to make a public comment?
Madam Chair, we have one hand raised.
Okay,
Alan Miller, please unmute to make your comment.
Good morning. I concur with the last speaker that I think an important deterrent factor is to make sure that the violator does not benefit from their violations, as the previous speaker said, by just incorporating it into the cost of business. And a 50,000 fine on Barton is like nothing. It's like a slap on the hand. When I used to work for the California Regional Water Quality Control Board, we fined people by the gallon. I have no idea here of how much wastewater was disposed of from this property containing sediment, nor what the levels were. But nonetheless, there were lots of discharges. And there's really no discussion in the staff report of the magnitude of the violations, nor of the staff time invested in trying to marshal this bozo into being a compliant permittee. Clearly, they're not acting in good faith, and I think it's hilarious because they're coming to you and the community seeking to promote themselves as some kind of a good neighbor, when right out of the chute here, they can't even control the least amount of sediment from a flat site. It's ridiculous to me, and I think the enforcement action underestimates the magnitude of the violations and the recalcitrance of the violator. So I think a stronger message needs to be sent, and that $50,000 in light of all of the violations and the discharges that occurred is woefully inadequate, as is the documentation behind the staff report. We had an enforcement policy where we went through and we weighed various factors and why a fine should be more or less, or what was reasonable under the circumstances. And here there should have been 0 discharges. They got plenty of room to infiltrate water on that property, and they're just not pulling their weight here, and they're not complying with your permit. And I'm sure there were other permit violations as well that were not rolled into here. So I just think it's a very poor enforcement approach that's being applied here to a very visible and public project, and clearly a violator who has you by the tail. So I think that you need to rethink this and come back with a bigger fine. Thank you.
anyone else online?
No, Madam Chair, if there are no other hand raised to comment.
Thank you very much. With that, then we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is approval of the agenda. Graham, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda, but just as marked on the agenda, we will be going into closed session after the Barton item, so, and then we'll come back.
Thank you. So we will deem the agenda approved as posted. Next, approval of minutes. This is agenda item 3. We have a draft set of minutes from September 24th on page 9 of the meeting packet. Does anyone have any changes they wish to make to the meeting minutes? And if not,
Extremely brief. It was delightful. I move to approve the minutes from the September 24th, 2025 meeting of the legal committee as presented.
thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Let's move on then to agenda item 4. This is discussion and possible recommendation for approval of resolution of enforcement action, Barton Healthcare System, failure of required BMPs resulting in discharge of sediment, 168 US Highway 50, State Line, Nevada, assessor parcel number 1318220021114, 1318220021115, 116, and 117. This is TRPA file number ERSP 2024-0572. Information on this item is on page 129. I'd like to turn it over now, please, to Steve Sweet to introduce the item.
Thank you. Again, this is consent calendar item 4, page 129 of your packet, resolution of enforcement action with Barton Healthcare System. The violation involves failure to maintain adequate temporary BMPs, resulting in discharge from the property. The violations occurred on the Barton Healthcare property, also known as the old Lakeside property, located at 168 Highway 50, State Line, Nevada. Can you go to the next slide? Here's a overview of where the property is located. And then the next slide, please. And then the Barton property, a little close up, and the main areas where the discharge was occurring in the yellow circle down at the lower end of the property on Laura Drive there is the area I'll be focusing on and showing you some photos. A brief background, Barton currently owns and maintains the old Lakeside property as a construction site of a demolished building. TRPA approved a grading plan on June 11th, 2024, in which Barton was implementing over the summer construction season of 2024. Under the TRPA Code of Ordinances, construction sites must be stabilized and winterized and maintain erosion control BMPs to prevent discharges into the waters of Lake Tahoe Basin. And so these are temporary BMPs that are required at this time, basically mainly to capture sediment from leaving the site. TRPA conducted winterization inspections with Barton representatives on September 24th, 2024 and November 14th, 2024, during which staff expressed concerns regarding the adequacy of the BMPs and the need for additional measures to capture and infiltrate more water on site. TRPA requested that Barton submit an augmented BMP plan to improve stormwater management to prevent runoff off site. Barton, however, did not feel it was needed and focused on maintaining the already installed and improved temporary BMPs from the original plan. TRPA staff met with Barton again and his contractor on January 15th, 2025 to address now continued BMP failures. And I want to here's a photo of the original BMP plan that was approved for the grading. You can go to the next slide, please. And so here on December 24th, Christmas Eve, I was out there and witnessed so discharges coming off the property and going right into the DI. This is the DI down on Laura Drive, where all the water was coming off, where it all goes from that lower part of the property. You can go to the next slide. I'm just going to show you a quick photo from the 3 dates I was out there between that time. This January 7th, 2025, again out there, there was a rain event, then it froze. I thought this was a really good photo to kind of actually show you. You could see all the sediment in the water that was coming right out of the site. You can see the BMPs were failing, not being maintained. And then the next slide, January 9th, again, going out there and just still sediment. You can see the track of the sediment that was coming off the site, and the BMPs were still not maintained at this time. And then I think that's the last picture for that. No, that's the next. And then during this meeting, during this meeting on January 15th, Barton committed to installing additional BMPs within 10 days to prevent further discharges. Despite this commitment, the new BMP plan was not submitted until January 28th, 13 days after the meeting, which did not allow sufficient time for implementation before additional runoff occurred on January 31st and February 1st, 2025. And I'll show you some pictures of that, which I felt was one of the larger discharges. And just you could see the sediment coming off the site still. On February 1st, 2025, TRPA then issued a cease and desist letter to Barton after observing all these additional discharges on the site. TRPA has determined that Barton's management of the Barton site between December 2024 and February 2025 resulted in multiple violations of discharge and permit conditions involving BMP requirements. The code, you can go to the next slide. Okay, here's the updated BMP plan that was approved. Just recently in 2000, or just this in September 2029, and this is part of what or 2025. Sorry, and this is what has been done and complete, and I'll go over that in a minute. Can you go to the next slide? I thought the code violations were next. These are the code violations that take place, all involving BMP requirements and discharge from the property. And go to the next slide. And Barton has taken responsibility for the unauthorized activities and has agreed to a settlement. Staff is recommending that the governing board approve a proposed settlement agreement where Barton implements the approved temporary BMP plan that was just up. You go back to that. And then pays a $50,000 penalty to Douglas County for the purpose of supporting operations and maintenance of stormwater management along Kale Drive and surrounding areas. We felt that was a good opportunity and a place for that money to go to improve the community in the area down there. So Lou Feldman is here to answer any questions on behalf of Barton, and I can answer any questions too.
Thank you. I think Graham, I'm gonna call in Graham,
Oh.
and then we're gonna call in Lou, and then we're gonna get into discussion so the committee knows what we're doing here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We did have another slide with some comparable violations. And these are similar violations I wanted to go over. You heard from public comment, a lot of different numbers. These were some of the ones we kind of picked out that we thought were somewhat similar to the scale and scope, the type of violations. There's nothing that's identical. All our violations are some slightly different in a lot of ways. And so, you'll see some of these violations, they didn't have as much discharge. They might have had other aspects involved with them, like some tree or grading. But they are all right in the same range as the Barton settlement. So we felt that we are being consistent with past violations of similar types. If you have any questions about any of these, I can answer any.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Graham?
I do have some remarks. I think in hindsight, let's have, if Barton wants to make any statements, and then if I could speak after that.
Sure. Does Barton want to make any statements at this time?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the legal committee, Lou Feldman of Barton Health. We certainly support the settlement as proposed. Violations did occur. I think it's noteworthy that Barton had an approved BMP plan. That BMP plan was augmented. The BMPs that were installed were north of $1 million. And since the violations occurred, in all candor, there was a decision made to change consultants with respect to the BMP plan. And Barton engaged NCE, That plan, which Steve displayed, was not only approved by TRPA, but has now been fully implemented. And again, at a cost of additional several $100,000. So Barton has never, ever tried to do anything other than implement approved BMPs that failed were augmented, and then an entirely new plan was in fact prepared, approved, and constructed. And with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. I think we're gonna let Graham speak and then we'll go into the discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make some general remarks largely in response to the public comments we received. You know, we had some comments today. We've gotten a lot of written comments. And I'd like to recognize the community's vigilance here and the concern for protecting Lake Tahoe. I think the level of attention this matter's received reflects how strongly people care about the lake and accountability for those who impact it. We value that engagement. It's an essential part of the process, and it helps keep all of us, including here at TRPA, focused on our shared mission of environmental protection. But with that in mind, I'd like to offer a few clarifying remarks about the framework we operate under and how this settlement fits within it. It's important to remember the context and the limits of TRPA's enforcement authority. Under the compact, our civil penalty authority is not to exceed $5,000 per day on each day in which a violation persists. Importantly, we also do not have unilateral authority to just issue civil penalties the way some other regulatory agencies do. If we can't reach a negotiated settlement, our alternative is to file a federal lawsuit and litigate the facts, the liability, and the penalty amount in court. That's really important. It is a distinguishing factor with TRPA. We have to reach agreements, or we can file litigation in court. We can't just issue unilateral penalty orders like other agencies. So that means that every enforcement action must balance the strength of our legal case, the disputed facts, and the need for a timely resolution. In this case, there are genuine disputes about both the causes and the extent of the runoff, as well as the adequacy of the BMP plan that was originally approved. Those issues would be vigorously contested if this matter went to litigation. So given this reality, settlements are by design a compromise. They're not the maximum penalty that we might hope to achieve in ideal circumstances. They're negotiated outcomes that again reflect the strength of the evidence and our likelihood of prevailing if we litigated, mitigating factors and corrective actions that have already been taken, the deterrent value that we believe is appropriate, and the practical benefit of securing immediate environmental improvements rather than spending a year or more in court. In this case, we are satisfied that the $50,000 settlement meets those objectives. It's fully consistent with TRPA's past settlements involving comparable facts and environmental impacts. And again, as Ellie mentioned, and as we've talked about today, all of these approved settlement agreements over the past 28 years are published on our website. You can go take a look. I think you'll find that in most cases, this is consistent. As Steve mentioned, the facts are all a little bit different. Some of the ones that are most severe tend to be construction without permits, especially in the shore zone. So this is, this settlement also ensures a tangible on the ground benefit. The funds are going to be used to enhance the stormwater detention basin in the same watershed, which provides a measurable corrective action for this incident. Thank you for just bearing with me. I'm going to keep going a few more points. From a deterrent standpoint, we believe Barton has taken this matter seriously. We think the site has been stabilized, BMPs have been re-engineered to a much higher standard, and we believe the site is now better equipped to handle the winter conditions this year than it was last year. So while I understand and appreciate the public's interest in the dollar amount, from a legal and practical standpoint, we think this settlement represents a strong, defensible, and proportionate resolution. And I also want to address the suggestion that TRPA should explain in detail how we calculated the $50,000. Beyond the general methodology in an open session, that would, in my view, undermine our enforcement authority in the future. Those are privileged assessments. Those types of deliberations are privileged for the agency. And you know, so I think that's really not something that we have a you know, a reason to go into and explain the details of how we arrive at a number. Again, other than you can go look at the past violations over the past 28 years and compare it. And I'm gonna wrap up with this point, and that is, you know, I think that it's a, well, I started with the fact that while I appreciate everybody, their interest, I do think there's a little bit of irony in pointing out or suggesting that TRPA's handling of an enforcement action against a violator, you know, in this case, that it's a hospital, but we understand they violated a few provisions, that somehow evidences leniency or favoritism. But the very fact that we're here and we are bringing an enforcement action, conducted multiple inspections with Steve's work on the site over many weeks last year, and going out on Christmas Eve and seeing what happened. We issued a cease and desist order over the weekend when it became apparent that we just couldn't wait any further to get compliance. All of that demonstrates that we are here taking action and holding parties accountable. And you know, we're here with a public settlement agreement before the board. So that's all. I just, you know, I know we can have a robust discussion about the amounts and the actions, and that's all welcome. And I just appreciate the opportunity to add to that discussion.
Thanks, Graham. Thank you. I will open it now for committee comments or questions. Shelley?
I guess my question is that they brought up the issue of the security fence that has been moved out of the public right of way. Why was it in the public right of way to begin with? Maybe that's a question for Lou.
I think, I can't say, anything other than it is behind the trail. And in fact, the result of that is that BMPs are up to the back of that fence. If we were to move the fence further off the trail, there would be a gap in BMPs between the trail and the fence. So this is the most prophylactic, you know, best management practice to complete the BMPs circumnavigating the site.
Does that require some sort of encroachment permit from?
There is an encroachment permit from Douglas County.
What about the undermining of the pathway that was constructed?
We have Jason Drew here from Nichols Consulting Engineers. NCE inspected the path and determined that there is no erosion or damage to the trail as a result of the BMPs, that it is in fact 10 years old or more. And like many of us have experienced, old age has taken a toll on a portion of the path.
Speak for yourself. So I guess my question, Lou, is on an ongoing basis. First of all, I have a question, I guess, for Steve. I mean, how involved has Douglas County been in terms of inspecting this site? I mean, they have some skin in the game here. Shouldn't be entirely up to TRPA to ensure that these, you know, that these, whatever commitments have been made to Douglas County are rigidly enforced. I mean, is there sufficient engagement, or do we need to reach out and enhance that engagement?
No, I feel Douglas County's been very engaged with
Okay.
us and have
Great.
attended, you know, several of the meetings on site, have, you know, coordinated with us on the BMPs. They have explained to us that they've issued the encroachment permit for the fence to be there. Everyone felt that it was in the correct place because of where the disturbance was. And so it's just, you know, that's where the fence went, and they're protecting the area behind it. That will all be restored with the future permit.
May I add, Barton has reached out to Douglas County and voluntarily worked with them to clean out all the storm drains along Laura Drive and Kale, which was not required, but simply did so because, again, Barton wanted to do the right thing and appreciates the collaboration with Douglas County as well, at Barton's expense, by the way.
And so, Lou, is there going to be enhanced supervision by Barton of this site going into the winter months to ensure that this doesn't reoccur?
I am also pleased to report that across the street from the site sits Jason Drew, who's in the room today with NCE. And so Jason's company will continue to monitor the BMPs on behalf of Barton, and whatever is necessary to fortify if required, Barton is ready, willing, and able to do.
And he has Steve on speed dial, right?
We all have Steve on speed.
Might be the other way around.
Shelley, I'm gonna shoot to Julie for just a minute.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair, thank you. Julie Reagan, TRPA's Executive Director. I wanted to build on Steve's answer to your question. Been in close touch with Douglas County, and just as recent as yesterday, we sat down with their executive leadership to brief them on this matter, and to ensure that collaboration, because we understand there's a lot of community concern. We have this issue, we have, this is not about the project. The project is gonna be a later, discussion. But I just wanted to reassure you that we're in close contact, and the encroachment permit is in their domain, and our domain is really more the
On-site.
BMP. Yeah.
Okay. And just one last question. Did in fact runoff from US 50, the 4H Road and Kale Drive have anything to do with the magnitude of this event, in your opinion?
I did see a lot of water running off of Highway 50 onto the site
Mhm.
in those larger storm events. There was a part, there's two entrances to Oil Lakeside. And so water would, in the past would run down those and go into the lakeside and then go into the storm drains there. And so, without any, now you have a demoed site. So now this water is just running through right onto their site. So there was some occasions I did witness.
But we don't have any exposed soil, right? It's been covered with what are those?
Not anymore. And part of the agreement, on the BMP plan was to make sure that those entrances were, they put curbs in front of them to direct the water, keep the water on the highway now.
Okay.
And use, and so they should go to their storm drains on the highway.
Okay.
And so they won't have that issue of water coming down onto their property and.
And those storm drains run into the stormwater detention basin?
On the highway?
The
ones on the-
detention basin that's part of this resolution.
Those are all the storm drains below Barton on Kale, the ones along Kale Drive, all the ones on the one on Laura Drive in the neighborhood below. All those storm drains go into two basins down, one in the meadow, one down by the
Okay.
apartment complex. Those are that's where the money is going to maintain those and
Is that the
And
same basin that we're
make sure
referencing
those are
here as
working.
part of the settlement?
mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shelley.
Okay.
Belinda, did you have a question?
Actually, Ms. Aldean covered many of the questions that I had, so thank you very much. And I just also want to commend staff for their diligence in really monitoring the situation. I do have some concerns about, Barton taking such a long time to basically do the right thing. That's not a good thing and does not, I think, encourage local community members to look at Barton favorably in the future because of that experience. So I just wanted to say that's definitely a concerning issue. But I have full faith that hopefully now things will be better and that we'll have more, more cooperation moving forward. So that's about it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Belinda. I can't see online if we have, I don't know if my committee members online we have hands raised. Ben or Alex?
Alex has her hand up.
Alex, go ahead.
I have nothing to add. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thanks, Ben. Alex, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, no, just appreciate the questions that have already been raised, and would just echo Ms. Fastinos's comments. I appreciate you raising that, Belinda. Agree.
Okay, well, if there are no further comments from the committee, I am looking for a motion.
Motion lady over there.
I move to approve the settlement agreement as shown in attachment A.
We have a motion. Any further discussion from our committee?
It needs to be recommended.
A motion to recommend approval, is that what it's?
Motion to, you're right, I wasn't reading, I was reading from my packet. That's right, I take off my TRPA governing board hat and on my legal committee hat. I move to recommend approval of the settlement agreement as shown in attachment A.
And I do, my discussion on this issue is I want to thank the legal committee. I want to thank everyone for this robust discussion this morning. I do intend to keep this on the consent calendar. That is how we normally proceed with an item like this. I think when we get to the board, Graham, if you can help me present this item though, what we talked about at our board retreat and something that's important to me is that the committees are a place where we vet issues. I want the board to know that we have these discussions, but I don't know that we need to redo them at the board unless that's their desire. But I'd like to have some faith in the legal committee in presenting this to the board. So that's
I'd like
my
to-
discussion on this motion.
Make one further comment. I really
Please.
think, and I'm hopeful that with the supervision that's being provided by somebody who's under contract to Barton, will prove to be advantageous. But if it isn't, I would entertain the idea of having a third-party independent supervisor. I don't think TRPA staff should be entirely responsible for supervising this project to ensure that it meets all of our requirements with respect to BMPs. And I'm hopeful that this will be the last time we see Lou at this table as part of a discussion concerning the failure to maintain those BMPs and protect the environment. So,
Thanks, Shelley.
thank you.
Any other discussions on that motion? If not, Catherine, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Bastinos?
Yes.
Mr. Keycapper?
Yes.
Ms. Loomer?
Yes.
Ms. Aldine?
Yes.
And Ms. Williamson?
Yes,
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
thank you. Our next item on our agenda is agenda item 5, which is closed session. So I'd ask the members of the public to please step out while we do the closed session.
For the project.
And please, online, Ben and Alex, we're gonna move you into breakout rooms, so give us a second.
All right, we're good to go, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, we are back out of closed session. Agenda item 6 is potential direction regarding agenda item 5. Graham?
Just to report, for public, we had a closed session to discuss the Eisenstecken versus TRPA case, as well as another matter involving potential litigation, and received some direction from the committee around settlement discussions in those two cases.
Thank you. Agenda item 7, committee member comments. Any committee members have comments? All right, that brings us to our final agenda item, which is public interest comments. This is the time for any member of the public wishing to address the legal committee and any item listed or not listed on the agenda at this time. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. I don't see anyone in the room. Catherine, is anyone's hand raised?
If any member of the public online would like to make a comment, please raise your hand now in Zoom by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. Madam Chair, there are no hands raised to comment.
Thank you very much. We'll close public comment then. Our last item is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Transportation is going on right now and board starts
No earlier than 10:15.
no earlier than 10:15. Thank you.